welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I'll be discussing the 2011 DreamWorks animated storybook comedy, adventure and spin-off from the Shrek franchise, Puss in Boots, as directed by Chris Miller. The movie follows the adventures of its title character, one Puss in Boots, as voiced by Antonio Banderas, who became a major part of the Shrek franchise from the second entry, 2004's Shrek 2, as one of Shrek's new companions. Opting not, as one might have thought, to give us a retelling of the classic Puss in Boots children's story, what we do actually get is technically a version of Jack in the Beanstalk, set within the Shrek universe. Forming a prequel of sorts, the movie charts Puss in Boots' origins back when he was but just a young orphan kitten in the little town of San Ricardo. Puss instantly befriends one Humpty Alexander Dumpty, as voiced by Zach Galifianakis, who brings Puss in on his scheme to use magic beans to travel to a far-off land where lives a fabled goose that lays golden eggs, just one of which would set them up for life. Time passes by and they too become estranged, but with the help of the mysterious and ever-surprising Kitty Softpaws, as voiced by Salma Hayek, Puss is lured back into the search for those magic beans, which, all be told, are being guarded by none other than the notorious criminals Jack and Jill, as voiced by Billy Bob Thornton and Amy Sedaris, respectively. Adventure awaits around every corner as Puss, Kitty and Humpty embark on their mission to grab the goose that lays those golden eggs for themselves, and in doing so repay an old debt. Only their action may have much more severe consequences for the townsfolk of San Ricardo than anybody could ever have imagined. Now, if I'm honest, and I do try to be, I try to be fair as best as I can be, when I did actually watch this movie back in 2011, I absolutely loathed it, and I mean despised. It was nothing like the Shrek movies that I had kind of come to love, and to be even more honest, I thought it was a pretty tedious and drawn-out affair, and I wasn't alone, so much so that my wife has protested that she would never watch the movie again. So, some pretty strong feeling there on all accounts. But, red-faced as I am, I do have to actually admit that watching it this time around for this review, which is my second viewing by the way, I couldn't get enough of it. I was completely bowled over and got caught right up in the middle of that adventure that ensues. And I'm not entirely sure what the difference was between the two viewings, apart from a little context perhaps, and more of a willingness, I would suppose, to accept just how not Shrek this actually was. And that's the thing, this isn't Shrek, and I think I needed to kind of really digest that to really enjoy what this had to offer. Sure, it's set in the same universe, and it certainly draws from the storybook angle that set up the Shrek movies so well, at least 3 out of 4, featuring many of the elements and even more beloved fairy tales and nursery rhymes, not least of course the base for the story, Jack and the Beanstalk. Its style and atmosphere are just so different, but immersively so. It's not as fast-paced or as punchy, no, that I would still agree with, but it has a different kind of energy, and kind of this zest that gives Puss in Boots its own vision, its own place in the Shrek universe that strives to show us it's got what it takes to go it alone. This is in fact very much a play on Banderas doing his Mask of Zorro bit as a cat, and it feeds into this persona very well, taking a character that was exceedingly well received within the Shrek universe and kind of proving that he had that kind of star quality to front a movie of his own. Not only that, but Banderas and Hayek have some amazing, pretty hot, for an animation, chemistry as Puss and Kitty respectively. Both strong individuals, both with their own history, motives, but with some excellent banter between them and some brilliant bravado and cunning. The movie's score, as penned by Henry Jackman, has this kind of real kind of Latin energy about it that really never kind of gives up. And the moves between Puss and Kitty are always like they're in this kind of steamy salsa, each teasing and toying with the other, which is as playful as the themes themselves. Jackman does an amazing job at bringing these characters to life with just this brilliant zest again. A real kick that kind of solidifies the movie's sense of adventure in the themes and the scintillating melodies, you know, that he ingeniously kind of crafts. And that's what this is. An adventure. Not outright hilarity, but genuine, heartfelt story with a true sense of substance, character development, and escapade, you know? The animation's on point and kind of presents the story in a very quirky way. Sometimes often quite abstract, taking us away from that, you know, storybook mode and more into a comic. Again, leaning in on the adventure, but with a much more moody, brooding kind of atmosphere than those in the Shrek arm of the franchise. It is actually quite a lot darker in tone than Shrek. Jack and Jill actually turn out to be pretty scary at times. It is, all told, quite the ingenious story, being very cleverly constructed from the fairy tales from which it takes inspiration, of which there are still plenty of to get nostalgic about, you know, but each with their own more twisted and sometimes more macabre take. Unlike the Shrek movies, this feels less like a fairy tale of its own, even though it is derived from a number of them, you know. The characters and the universe feel padded and evolved on their own accord, giving us a very meaningful story of friendship, betrayal, redemption, and forgiveness. Overall, I'm not even sure, even after all of this, what I watched the first time around back in 2011. It almost seems like a completely different movie to me. You know, perhaps it was, or more likely, my perception of the movie has changed to such an extent that I was kind of open to its more adventure-orientated side this time around. More so than kind of looking for any Shrek-like comedy. It's paced well, but differently to the Shrek movies, which I think was what initially kind of turned me off the idea. But it's that same difference this time around that kind of lit a spark. That kind of brought the adventure home and made me feel so involved in the story. Don't ask me what I'm on about. I don't know. It's perhaps less light-hearted affair than we'd kind of previously seen with the Shrek arm of the franchise, bringing a kind of darker, more serious-sided story, but one that still kind of remains pretty lively, you know, and most certainly with its own kind of distinct Latin passion for its main characters. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do leave a like, please do hit that subscribe button for movie reviews, trailer reactions and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you at SciFirst MovieTalk. Definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.